I can't believe it's day 6 already, day 6 of the 12 days of Christmas. It's stock up day, perfect for refreshing your essentials and treating yourself to a few tools that make stitching even more fun. Today we have a great book from our friends at the Fabric Cafe, Panel Perfect 3-Yard Quilts. As with their other books, you get 8 patterns in the book. It's a great value. You have 6 quilts that use different size squares, so panels that have small squares in them, 7.5, 8.5, and 10.5 inches, and then a vertical panel and a horizontal panel. Now, fabric selection for a panel quilt works the same as fabric selection for their other quilts. Super easy. Your panel is fabric number 1. Pick a light that goes, that'll be your fabric number 2. And then pick a dark, that'll be your fabric number 3. You can see that it follows the same formula as all of their other books. So if you've done 3-yard quilts, not much new to learn. It's the same formula, including the extra instructions if you can use directional fabric. Now, if you look at one of these quilts that uses the smaller panel square, 7.5, 8.5, or 10.5 inches, you could take any feature fabric. Let's say you had a beautiful Christmas fabric. You could take that and replace these squares with simply cut feature fabric squares. So you don't need to use them for a panel, but this is a great resource. This is Panel Perfect 3-Yard Quilts from the Fabric Cafe. Here's another handy ruler from Creative Grids. It's the 12.5-inch squared up and fussy cut ruler. And if you're going to use patterns like perfect panels for 3-yard quilts or any kind of quilt where you need to fussy cut a square or a rectangle, this is the tool you're going to want to use. So let's talk first a little bit about Creative Grids. You know that they have the patented anti-slip coating dots on the back of their rulers. This ruler, you're going to find the diagonal lines that we like to use. But what's different with this ruler is it measures from the center out. So you don't have grid lines along the side or along the whole ruler. You're measuring from the center out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches all the way up to 12.5 inches so that you can center motifs on fabric. So let me try and show you what that looks like. The glare from the overhead camera is pretty bad, but I'll do my best. So if I wanted to use, let's say, an 8-inch square in a Panel Perfect quilt, I could just cut an 8.5-inch strip and cut squares, but I might end up with a square that looked like that and no flower in the middle, just flowers all the way around the outside. So I'd kind of like to plan my squares. So I'm going to plan to put this orange square in the middle, and then I should be able to put this square in the middle, and then I'm just going to pick where can I get so that I can put a nice flower in the middle. So let's work with this orange square and I'll show you how it's done. And we'll pretend we need an 8.5-inch unfinished square. So I'm going to find the center of that flower, and it's right there. There's actually a hole here, so I could mark the center of the flower. And now on this ruler, the solid lines are your finished size. So if I knew I needed 8-inch finished, I could use that line. But I'm going to do 8.5-inch is what I need. So I'm going to measure out, there's my 8-inch finished line. So I need 8.25 all the way around. That's going to be the white dashed lines. So I'm simply going to take my pencil, something that I'm going to be able to see. I'm going to go to the corner. Now, at the corners of the dashed lines, there are holes in here for you to mark your mark. So at every 8.25 corner, I'm going to make a mark. And now I can take my ruler I can do one of two things. I can take my ruler and I can draw a line and then cut, but why wouldn't I just take my ruler, line up my 2 dots, and then cut so that my beautiful orange flower is in the middle. When I cut that out, I can go to my next flower, find the center, and do the same thing, making sure that it fits in there. So let's say this time I only wanted a 6-inch square. So 6-inch finished would be this solid line, 6-inch finished. I need my seam allowance, so I'm going to go to 6 1/4. I'm going to mark those 4 corners, and I'm going to cut that out. This is also a great tool if you do applique or machine embroidery and you put a design in the middle and now you need to center it. This is a great tool for centering, for fussy cutting, for applique, and for machine embroidery. This is the 12.5-inch square it up and fussy cut ruler from Creative Grids. It's time to stock up on needles. Needles are so important when we are trying to do accurate piecing. We've picked our top recommended needles from the staff, and I'll share them with you today. The first needle that we have today are embroidery needles. So these have a light ball point, a wide eye, and they have a groove, a special scarf that's widened down the needle to allow the thread to run through that scarf, because in our embroidery machines, our thread is moving very, very quickly and it prevents friction. So these are embroidery needles, and it's a multi-pack, size 11s and 14s, depending on the kind of thread that you're using and the project that you have. Then we've included quilting needles. Again, this is a multi-pack, size 11 and 14. They have a special taper to just to a slightly rounded point. They're perfect for piecing and for machine quilting. And the reason they have that special taper is it allows it to penetrate the fabric very smoothly, and it eliminates skipped stitching. So those are quilting needles. And then the #1 recommended needle at Lori's Country Cottage are Microtex needles. We have them in size 10 and size 12. Now, Microtex needles have a really acute point, which means they don't go like this. It's more of a, comes to a sharp point, but acutely like that instead of straight on. Very good for tightly woven fabrics like batiks and microfiber. This is the needle I use all the time. You would use a smaller size if you were doing paper piecing or whatnot like that. So it's time to stock up on needles. How do you know when it's time to change your needle? Well, if you don't remember the last time you changed it, it's already past time to change it. I change my needle at the start of every project. Since we're sharing some very useful hand embroidery notions, I went to Deborah and I said, pick me out a collection of needles for brand new embroiderers who don't know what they're doing, people like me. So Deborah did some research, and this is what she came up with: the John James Crafters Collection embroidery needles. So you get 18 hand stitching needles, and she chose these because they have a larger eye for threading multiple strands of thread, and because you get 3 sizes of needles, and they are sized for beginners. So you get size 3, size 5, and size 7. They're also great for any kind of quilting and sewing and hand stitching your binding, plus sewing on embellishments like buttons. If you're just getting started or you need a basic set of needles for hand stitching at home, this is the set for you: the John James Crafters Collection embroidery needles. Here's a nifty notion from our friends at Colonial Needles. If you're new to stitching, hand stitching like I am, I need all the help I can get to understand what's the difference between needles and what thread does it go with and what kind of needle do I use for what kind of stitching. And this is the tool for you. So it's got a spinning wheel on the front and a chart on the back. So let me show you how it works. So I'm going to go and I'm going to decide what project am I doing. Well, let's say I'm in Deborah's hand stitching class and I'm learning embroidery. So I'm going to go to embroidery. I'm going to hand stitch embroidery, and I'll go across till I find the green square, and it will tell me what needle I need. I need an embroidery or crewel needle. If I was working with wool, I would need a chenille needle. So I'm going to flip to the front now, look for embroidery crewel around the outside, and there are 2 sections for embroidery crewel. And that's because there are 2 different kinds of thread that you can do embroidery with. If I was using pearl cotton, I would go in this section here, but I'm going to use strands of embroidery floss. And then it asks me, how many strands am I using? Well, I'm new. I'm going to do 2 to 3 strands of embroidery floss in my crewel needle. So I need a size 8. So go to the open window and it tells you what size you need. But let's say I'm just hand stitching binding. So I'm going to quilting, binding, and basting. Well, I can use betweens, sharps, straw needles, and darners. Most of my needles are sharps or applique needles. So let's go to that section. Here's the sharps section, and I'm going to use 50 weight Aurifil thread. So I'll turn the dial to find 50 weight thread, and then it tells me my needle size can be a 7 or an 8. This is a great tool to help you choose which needle to use with which thread on the project that you're working with. This is the Colonial Needle Wheel. Here's another staff recommended notion. Our Clover Natural Fit leather thimbles. This is the thimble that I use all the time. I hand stitch binding, and this is the thimble that I use. So there are no seams or stitching anywhere that you would push on a needle, and there are 2 layers of leather. So you don't have to worry about your needle piercing the leather. It comes in 3 sizes, large, medium, and small, and there's a size guide right on the box to try. I'm a medium, and I thought I'd show you my thimble waistland. This is probably my original, not probably, this is my original leather thimble. It's more than 25 years old, and eventually what happens is it starts to snag, and it's time to replace your thimble. So I replaced it with this thimble. This thimble is at least 9 years old. I bought it just before I started working at Lori's, so it's a little over 9 years old. And I just replaced it and got my next thimble. Now the great thing about this thimble is everybody pushes the needle on a different spot. So I push my needle right here when I'm doing stitching. If you push down here closer to the middle of your finger, or even on the end of your finger, it doesn't matter. Your finger is completely protected. Now I've been using this for quite a while. You can see it's starting to stretch out. So what I do when it starts to stretch, I simply wet it. I let it dry and it shrinks back down. These leather thimbles last years and years and years, and it's just my go-to thimble for all of my hand stitching. Here's the Quick Desk Needle Threader from Clover. It says right on the box that it is for Clover needles of a certain size. I was a little disappointed when I saw that, but when I did my testing, it works on other needles. Let me show you how it works. So I've just got regular cotton thread, and let's start with, I do have a Clover needle. So you drop the needle in eye down, lay your thread in that groove, and then just put a little bit of light pressure on the thread. There's even little indents for your finger, and then press the button, and there's your threaded needle. It's pretty slick. So that is a Clover needle. It says it works on Clover, and it did. So I tested some other needles. They have to be oval. This is a John James, This is a John James sharp needle. And again, the thread just lays in the groove. Give it a little hold, and then push. And it threaded that needle too. Then I pulled out a Bowen, this is a Bowen Sharp needle, and I tested with that and another threaded needle. And why not keep going? This is a Bowen embroidery needle. It actually says on the packaging that it won't work for embroidery needles, but I looked and it is a oval eye and it threaded it. And then I've got one more. This is another John James. I have no idea what it is. It is oval, but it's very, very small. And so I tested it on that as well. And there's your threaded needle. And honestly, I didn't find a needle in my package of needles that didn't work. I don't have really strange needles or a wide variety, but it worked for Bowen embroidery, Bowen Sharps, John James Sharps, the Golden Eye Clover. That is a very, very small eye, a very small needle, and some kind of random John James, don't even know what it is. And it really is amazing. So I will say that they tell you it only works on clover needles. It only works on oval eyes. I found that not to be true. I would call these all oval-eyed needles, but it does say it doesn't work on embroidery needles, and this is an embroidery needle, and it worked. So this is the Clover Quick Desk Needle Threader, and it is going to save you so much time. Here's a great nifty notion. I saw this demo at Quilt Market. This isn't a new notion, it's just something I had never seen before. It's the Clover Dome Threaded Needle Case. So it's a case for you to store already threaded needles. The first thing that came to mind for me was hand stitching binding. So why not have a bunch of needles already threaded, and then you don't have to stop and thread. But those of you who like to travel and do hand stitching, this is a great opportunity for you to prepare your needles ahead of time and then not have to thread as you are doing your work. So it looks like this. It's got a cover. The cover comes off and pops on the bottom, so it has a little stand. So I've threaded 5 needles. I used my Clover needle threader, my new favorite tool, and I'll show you how it works. All of these little spokes are numbered. So I'm going to find number 1, and I'm going to put it close to this little groove. And then I'm just going to take the needle and push it in. Don't push it in as far as you can go. I have learned from working with this for a little bit. Take the thread, pull it into the groove, and then I'm just kind of holding it underneath, and you're just going to wind it up, and it's winding up the thread and putting it inside. So now to put my second needle in, I'm going to find number 2. I'm going to put it close to the groove, take my second needle, insert it, put the thread into the groove, and wind. So while I wind the other needles into the needle keeper, I'm going to tell you a bit about the rules concerning the threaded needle keeper. Your needles need to be shorter than 2 inches long, and your thread should not be longer than 35 inches long. And don't tie a knot. So don't tie your knots ahead of time. The knots will just make everything get wound up inside, and it won't work. So here's number 5. So I'm going to wind 1 through 5 in that order. And then when you take them out in the reverse order. So I'm going to start with number 5. Here's my number 5. And the trick is to grab the needle and the thread at the same time. And there is needle number 5, number 4. That's why you don't push it in as far as you can. It makes it harder to grab. Number 3, 2, and my last threaded needle, which I pushed in. So if you push it in too far, you just grab your both threads and give them both a pull at the same time, and then that needle will come out. But you got to grab the thread. There we go. And then the thread comes out. Once you have all your needles inside, you can just put the dome case on top and then it's closed. This is an awesome find for me. I know it's not new, but maybe it's new to you too. This is the Clover Dome threaded needle case. Hand stitchers are going to love those new Clover notions. Panel Perfect 3-yard quilts is a must-have for panel lovers, offering quick and satisfying projects. Pair it with the Creative Grids squared up and fussy cut ruler, and that'll make trimming and centering your blocks a total breeze. And we've got every needle you might need. Whether you're hand stitching or popping them into your machine, you'll always have the right one at the ready. And to top it off, the Quilt Genius design tool is here to expand your creativity, boost your confidence, and help you bring your natural talent to life. So go ahead, put your favorites in the cart, go through the checkout. Don't forget to download the free block so that you can make the project at the end of the 12 days of Christmas. And I will see you tomorrow for day 7.